Every now and again, a game comes along that has me so utterly enthralled, has a grip on me that cannot be ignored. Every waking and sleeping moment, it will be on my mind and I will simply disappear from reality until I have it completed to my satisfaction. I could count these games on a single hand. Games that remind me why I game in the first place. Games that revitalise my enthusiasm to game. But the game we will be reviewing today has gone above and beyond anything I have previously experienced. From the minute I sat down and began to play this game, it stole my heart. I'm Pat Carey from the Republic of Players, and let's look behind the mask of Persona 5 Royale. The big question I asked myself before I went out and bought Royale was, do I really need this if I already played Persona 5? The simple answer is yes. And while I could wrap up the video here and call it a day, it would be doing a huge disservice to Royale. The game still follows the events that happen in Persona 5. From the exhilarating opening segment as you escape from a casino, giving you very little idea of what's really going on, but enough to entice you to explore what this game has to offer. You're then caught, told you were sold out by a teammate, and are harshly treated before being questioned on how you got to this point. From being unjustly accused of assault to ending up in Tokyo and attending Shujin Academy on probation, to discovering the cognitive world, which is a realm based on people's perceptions on the world. A place where you have the ability to change one's heart by entering their palace and stealing their distorted desires, which manifest themselves as treasures. You do this with your ragtag group of friends that you make over the course of the game, with the power of rebellion you awaken within, called a persona. Monster-like personifications of the person's will, and grant you the ability to fight off shadows and actually make your way through one's palace. Now, I could spend hours discussing the story, and even the rather intriguing premise the game creates with the idea of a cognitive world. So, I'll try and keep it short and concise. The story itself is one that is enrapturing to behold and witness play out. And the foreshadowing of being in captivity as you play throughout the story was an incredible way of holding your attention and wanting to see how you ended up like that. It also keeps you aware as you look for little tidbits that might relate to that situation. It also works in another way though, as you get closer and closer to recounting your tale up to captivity, and that is, how will you get out of that predicament? The game creates a great build-up and an incredibly satisfying payoff, all the while as it continues in incredible strides all the way to its ending. Though one of the more fascinating aspects of this game has to be the world that is created. The concept of one's distorted desires being explored through the cognitive world and seeing how they view reality through their own eyes is an idea that infatuated me to always want to see what type of palace was next. Royale basically follows the plot of Persona 5, however it adds in loads of extra bits here and there, with whole new interactions as well as the new characters that create a bit more depth and help flesh out the world and the ideas of the game. There's also the fact that a whole extra semester exists for you to explore, and it's just as riveting as the rest of the game, arguably even more so, especially with how it takes the approach to the new palace ruler that will have you questioning yourself quite a lot, but is also very refreshing in my opinion. I'd say Royale adds on roughly around 30 hours or so, which is pure madness when you stop to think about it. And that's not the only places where a change or something new has been added. Now, one of the strongest systems I believe Persona 5 Royale has going for it is its confidant feature, a staple of the series, where you spend time with a variety of characters, from your teammates to others you will interact with throughout the locations of Tokyo. Strengthening the bonds with these characters will in turn give you perks, from party members gaining new abilities in battle, learning new techniques like changing out teammates during a fight, or opening up a wider selection of items to buy with the people you meet in the city. These boosts can be incredibly beneficial to you on your playthrough of the game, but that isn't the true brilliance of them. You can build your confidant rank from 1 to 10 by spending time with each character, and this is where it shines. You learn quite a lot about each character you interact with, making them feel very real in a lot of aspects. There's undoubtedly characters that you will resonate with on a personal level as you deepen your connection. And for me personally, it made me grow attached to these characters like no other game has ever really done for me. It's definitely an amazing experience that works exceptionally well when you're taking a break from exploring palaces. Royale has 2 new confidants in the Gymnast Yoshizawa and Dr. Maruki, who are really good additions to the cast and are just as compelling as the rest of the lovable characters this game offers up. But one of my favourite additions is the fact that you can actually spend time with the Prince Detective Goro Akechi. He was one of my favourite characters in Persona 5, and now that you can actually hang out and interact with him proper, well, it just made my day. Quite frankly, hanging out with the characters leads to incredible moments that show immense character growth, emotionally strong scenes, or my favourite, when the characters are just having good old crack. But while this game offers up an incredible supporting cast, one of my small pet peeves is the actual main character, and my reasoning behind that is that he is simply bland. Now, I understand the reasoning behind the idea of having a character that is in essence a blank slate. It makes it easier for the player to project themselves onto this character, and it works as a fantastic catalyst to promote the development that all the other characters go through. However, going back to the opening of this game, during the animated sequence where you escape from the casino, it gives off the impression of someone who is cheeky while confident. Hell, the main character even says a handful of words in this one scene that left me to believe there would be a bit more character there to digest. Yet this attitude that is presented never really shows back up, which to me is a slight disappointment. But like I said, the purpose the main protagonist fills in this game is executed very well and fulfills its purpose. I was just left wanting more due to how he was introduced, and the fact that he stands out like a sore thumb when compared to the rest of a well fleshed out and developed cast. A little nitpick on my end, but an opportunity that could have been explored rather than having a blank canvas. Continuing on with something related to building one's confidant rank, you also have to improve your social stats. From studying to gain knowledge, baiting to get some charm, and eating a burger that would most likely cause diabetes just to soup up your guts. Nice. These social stats are directly connected to strengthening bonds with other characters, as you'll need to have them at a certain level in order to increase the rank of some confidants. Between your time improving your stats and relationships creates a form of management you will find yourself working towards in order to try and best spend your time. And talking about time, Royale has added a few new places for you to hang out, including a whole new area to explore with Kichijoji, where you can participate in a minigame of darts, which is surprisingly fun and even incorporates motion controls to throw a dart, which feels oddly satisfying. There's a great handful of other new places to spend your time in this area. A jazz club, playing pool, or meditating at a temple. All these new areas have an advantage to them that are quite useful to use. Boosting the stats of your party members to help them grow stronger outside of battle, to improving technical damage and enhancing the effect of the baton pass. I honestly really enjoyed these new areas to hang out, notably because of the benefits they provide to your team when battling. This creates a pretty solid reason to keep visiting these places, and it's where I spent most of my time faffing about with my buddies. Also, the fact that you can play darts with a cat hands down makes this one of the greatest experiences ever made. Persona 5 Royale has an impeccable turn-based fighting system. It's simplistic in design and quick to get a grasp of. From your Persona's elemental attacks as well as support options that boost your stats, or ailments you can apply on your foes to get the upper hand in battle. You then have your physical attacks, gunfire, item usage, and guard feature. Most shadows that you face will have weaknesses that you will be able to use to your advantage to knock them down, whether it be an elemental, gun, or physical strike, which in turn will allow you to have another attack, but if you can knock down all your enemies, you can do an all-out attack that will do massive damage. There will be enemies that are unaffected by any means of attack, and you will first have to inflict the likes of sleep or shock on them to do technical damage, which will put them into a knockdown state as well as deal more damage. However, you have another option if you do a knockdown. You can baton pass to another one of your party members for them to attack with an added oomph to their assault. With Royale, they have updated the baton pass function, and I must say it's a welcomed enhancement for it. From the get-go, it's available for you to use at the start, unlike in the original Persona 5, where you had to have your party member's confidant rank at level 2 to unlock that option. The bonuses that you get from passing it throughout your party is much greater too, with recovering some health and your SP, which you use for your Persona's abilities. And if you can manage to fully baton pass around the whole group, you get to use a Persona skill without having it cost you anything. This reworking of the baton pass feels more finalized and effective, giving you a greater reason to use it in Royale. But that's not the only useful change that has been implemented to the battle system. Your gun reloads with every battle you enter, which is a great relief rather than having a set number every time you enter a palace. Now you can play around with it a lot more and use it more frequently to capitalize on your opponent's weaknesses. One of the brand spanking new elements that was added to Royale would have to be the Showtime attacks. These are dramatic cutscene attacks between two characters that unleash a huge wave of damage that can be activated randomly by a baton pass or by an enemy's health being low. It's a cool new feature that yet again shows off the immense personality of the characters and are just pure fun to watch with how ridiculous some of them can be. Royale definitely brings a big improvement to the turn-based combat system that is greatly appreciated and rejuvenates the gameplay from what was present in the original Persona 5, that looking at it now would be hard to go back to due to these new changes Royale has introduced. Persona are naturally a big part of the game. After all, they are in the title. They're the creatures you encounter and fight and can be all yours to control. Whether it be through negotiation when you knock down a foe, which is honestly a fun little endeavour to try and get right as you answer the questions to suit their personality. Also, some of the conversations that are had can be very strange but oddly fun, particularly with some of the responses you can give. It's an interesting take compared to most games that have a similar take on capturing monster-like beings. Honestly, it felt a bit more rewarding when I did manage to get the right answers to their questions and obtain them. But there is another way to acquire Persona, and that's by brutally murdering them with a guillotine, or the odd time a lolly with a chainsaw to fuse them together in order to make something new. Now is when it becomes interesting as you start playing around with fusing Persona. A limited number of moves from the previous Personas fused can be passed on to a newer fusion. So, if you play your cards right, you can have yourself a powerful Persona with some incredible versatility. It's an entertaining escapade away from the rest of the game as you fumble around trying to construct the ultimate Persona that will be of use to you as you fight. You have the standard fusion that is between two Persona, although there is an option to fuse more than two with certain Persona. Though if you don't want to fuse Persona, you can still gruesomely murder them for other applications, such as getting items or gaining moves which you can apply to your other Persona, or sacrificing a Persona to infuse its strength into another. There's a lot you can play around with to help develop your Persona's power, and going back to the Confidant ranks, they link into this fusion. Confidants and Persona are linked to the Arcana, which are basically tarot cards. So let's say you increase your Confidant rank with Ryuji, who is the Chariot Arcana. When you infuse into existence a Chariot Persona, it will get a fairly good boost in level depending on your current Confidant rank. Royale of course has a good handful of new Persona to procure, with the addition of 2 new Confidants in Fate and Counselor. One new aspect of fusing is that Persona have traits now, which you can fiddle about when making these monsters. It's an overarching ability for a Persona. For example, it might halve the cost of SP needed to use an ice attack, or boost your next assault by a certain percentage if a baton pass is done on that character. It's a neat little attribute that creates a fresh outtake on the creation of your Persona and can be played around with to give you quite the advantage in combat. Royale has altered the construction of the palaces you explore to give them a few more things to do, And the main change is the grappling hook, which leads to secret areas where new items await, or give you shortcuts through certain areas of the game. It really works well when it is used to its full capability, which can mainly be observed through the new palace in the third semester and in one of the sections of an older palace. Otherwise, it feels sort of tacked on overall, really only there to give an indicator as to where a secret area is. It leaves an impression of underutilization, which is a shame when you see how it can work to give off a puzzle-like vibe when applied properly. Other than that, no real changes were made, but the difference in scope between palaces is still something that is quite visually pleasing. Each palace has their own aesthetic that makes them stand out amongst each other and are used creatively. One of my favourite examples is when you get to walk through paintings while exploring a palace that is based around a museum. They are crafted so well to give you a clear understanding of how the person of that palace views the world within their mind, and they are just full of personality in their own right. There is one dungeon that is randomly generated every time you proceed to a new floor called Mementos. It's an area that is mainly for scrubbing up and gaining some levels, but it does have a few interesting features to it. Throughout the game you will get requests to change the hearts of those who are abusing their power in life or just being evil in some way. You will find them throughout Mementos, where you will encounter the person's shadow and enter a mini boss like battle. It's a fun distraction from the main game's plot. Mementos has had a big change up with the addition of a new character called Jose. This little guy will be able to sell you items if you collect flowers throughout Mementos, and he's capable of adjusting the cognition of Mementos by allowing you to gain more experience from encounters, more money, and even increasing the number of items you pick up, though you will need to trade him stamps, which you will find littered throughout all of Mementos. Like many things Royale offers, it's a welcome change that makes life a little easier and eases the sheer amount you have to grind to be ready when compared to the original version of Persona 5, while also giving you more reason to explore Mementos outside of just grinding to a higher level. Minigames are something that sometimes take on a life of their own within games, and Persona 5 Royale has its fair share. From baseball to the previously mentioned darts, which are fun and great additions for something to do on the side when you're not stealing hearts or improving bonds between characters. However, there is one wee little game that was quite addictive to me that exists in a new area called the Thieves' Den. A place where you can enjoy the game's music, cutscenes, artwork, and play a card game by the name of Tycoon. Now, I'm not sure what it is about card games and video games, but when I start jumping into them, I just can't seem to stop. I could honestly play Tycoon for hours and not be bored trying to defeat the AI and still acquire a sense of boundless pleasure from playing it. It's more than a distraction from the main game. It's compelling to play, it's simple to get a grasp of, and playing it with your teammates in the game is a nice addition that plays into the bonds you make with them, and also some of their lines are great, especially the ones delivered by Max Mittelman, who is Ryuji's voice actor.
Did I just win this?
Something Persona 5 is known for is its immaculate expression of style. One look at the title screen or menu and the colours and animations are something enchanting to lay witness to. It unequivocally brings character to the game in its own right, and red is easily my favourite colour in existence now. But it doesn't just stop at the title screen and menus. When you're issuing out commands or dishing out damage, it just radiates style. And finishing a battle and getting an energetic display of the experience, money and items you obtain just screams vibrancy and life. It's clear to see the love and passion that was poured into this aspect of the game, and it really brings into perspective how much of an impact it can leave on a player with how ingrained it is on my brain. Something that is usually mundane in other games is scaled up beyond 100%, that shows the importance of an engaging as well as alluring UI design that honestly improves the experience of the game. An incredibly simple idea, yet creates an immense fixation that I found hard to peel myself away from. There is an improvement to the graphics in Royale, but nothing that is mind-blowing. However, the game is still pleasant on the eyes, and the use of colour throughout the game depending on the situation usually works alongside the tone the game is going for, and is one of the best games using cel shading in my opinion. Though feasting your eyes on the designs for the Persona is definitely one of the game's strong points graphically. From the awesome looking designs to the downright strange and unsettling, like the big chariot riding dick looking monster. And no, I'm not making that up, and for heaven's sake, you'd think they could have been, a little more subtle with the Persona's design. The diversity in design can be quite staggering, but makes it so you never really know what kind of Persona is coming next. I also just want to talk about the shading on Personas. I'm not exactly sure how I would frame it in words, however they have an incredible appeal that makes them stand out from everything else. Also, just on a quick note, some scenes are animated in 2D animation, which are always a joy to witness, and a few new animations have been thrown into the game, which is a huge plus in my book. Now, one thing I was surprised to find on my playthrough that never occurred for me in the original Persona 5 would have to be the drop in frame rate. Now, to be fair, it only happened 3 or 4 times throughout my 134-hour playthrough, and the rest of the time it ran buttery smooth. I was just kinda surprised by this more than I think I should be. Just off the premise, I never experienced anything like it on the original Persona 5, and I assumed the same going into Royale. It just stood out a lot more than it should have, even though they weren't that much of an issue in hindsight. Style was something I discussed earlier, and the music the game has to offer up complements the visuals splendidly. To put it simple, Royale offers an implementation of some new and old tunes, and the best terminology I could use to describe the impact it left on my ears is pure bangers. The sweet upbeat jazz infused with rock can be absolutely intoxicating, and the odd time I find myself throwing down the controller just to listen. And I can't say many games can accomplish that with their soundtrack. I'd be remiss to not also mention the more mellow tunes that the game has, that offer a more relaxing vibe, that have an oddly calming effect while you play. However, there is the more obscure melodies, such as the video games you can play in-game. They have a joyful, nostalgic retro feel to them. It just amazes me to see such a distinction between the tunes, and yet again it shows how much effort was incorporated into Persona 5 and Royale. The music is brilliant at delivering a tone that captures the emotion of whatever moment you find yourself in, and I know that I will probably be humming a lot of these bangers for months to come. Now, there might be a few things that could turn off some from experiencing the game, and it's understandable. No one game appeals to everyone. One such issue would have to be how dialogue heavy the game is. You can find yourself going through waves of conversations that can drag out quite extensively sometimes, especially if it's lacking with voiceover work. If this is something that bothers you, then it simply might not be the game for you. Another argument that could be made against it is the sheer quantity of time one will have to invest to reach the end. Persona 5 Royale is by no means a short game, and you'll most likely be looking at 100 hours even if you're not going for the true ending. Devoting that much time to a game can seem like a big hurdle for many. It was one of the reasons I was skeptical about picking the game up, but I'm so glad that I did. These might be turn-offs for some people, but I would implore anyone to give it a go if these are your only gripes with the game. They're not big offenders that dampen the experience, and are more positive in my eyes than anything else. And that is Persona 5 Royale. A game that is the definition of phenomenal to me. A gorgeously crafted game with addictive turn-based gameplay, a wonderful confidant system that lets you hang out with characters that are developed incredibly well, immersive music, an engaging fusion system to get that persona you want, and a downright compelling story with loads of new features and narrative sections. Some new aspects I didn't even mention due to the fact that they're better being found out while playing the game yourself, especially if you played the original Persona 5, and it would be a shame to spoil them. It's a truly magnificent game. However, as I finish up on Royale and this review, I can't help but feel empty inside. As I mentioned at the beginning of this review, Persona 5 Royale had an unshakable grip on me that nearly had me becoming an insomniac so I could just play it. And that is a new phenomenon to me, that was honestly kinda scary, yet at the same time unregrettable in every way. But now I'm finished and I have no idea what to do with myself. No other game appeals to me at the moment. Royale has spoiled me to the point that everything else looks inferior. I'm sad because it's probably going to be a very long time before I find another game that resonates with me to such an extent as Royale. But I hope an experience like it isn't too far off in the horizon. Royale has left a significant impression on me, even more so than its original version. It's an experience like no other and one that will be ingrained within me for the rest of my time on this earth. I would implore anyone to give Royale a go. Even if it's a genre you're not particularly interested in, Royale is a brilliant jumping on point for JRPGs. And you never know, it might just be up your alley and consume you as much as it did me. It's a monster of an experience that will never leave you if you tick with it. And you might just love what you find beneath the mask of Persona 5 Royale. If you managed to make it this far through my ramblings, thank you. Persona 5 Royale is a special game to me and I felt like it deserved my utmost respect when it came to reviewing it. If you enjoyed what you watched, then please do subscribe and like for more content like this, and follow the Republic of Players on our many social media pages, which will have links that will be in the description below. I've been back Curly from the Republic of Players, and until next time, have a good one.